They're not the ones who have to make the hard decisions. Stop checking my work email at 9 p.m. Any good news is not going to make my day, but any bad news is going to ruin my night. So, as a business owner, you have to constantly be investing in the future. If it was easy, then everyone would do it, but it's not. It takes time to train solid financial consulting professionals. Like, you need someone who's fully dedicated to.
Welcome to Builders, the podcast for impact-driven leaders who are done carrying it all and ready to scale with clarity, strategy, and freedom. I'm your host, Alex Snyder, strategic growth architect, creator of the CEO Recode, and second brain to leaders who are building brilliant companies without sacrificing every ounce of their time, energy, or sanity. Each episode, I sit down with bold leaders who've rebuilt, recalibrated, or redefined what it means to lead well and live well on their own terms. We talk messy pivots, leadership upgrades, tactical wins, and the deep personal work it takes to build a business that actually works for you. If you love the episode, make sure you follow, rate, and share it with another leader who's building big and wants to build smarter. And if you're listening and thinking, damn, I need someone in the guts of my business with me, let's talk. Book your free business breakdown call using the link in the show notes. In 30 minutes, I'll help you pinpoint where blockers in your time, team, or strategy are silently stalling your growth and define 2 to 3 high impact shifts you can implement now to regain traction and build momentum. Now, let's dive in. Let's build it better. Rob, welcome to Builders. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm so excited to dig in. You are the founder of Sapling Financial Consultants, and in your own words, as I always like to put it right onto my guest, tell us who you are and what you're building.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you inviting me on. My firm's called Sapling Financial Consultants, and we are a 30-person consulting firm, and we work mostly with private equity firms and in the private market ecosystem of companies. So there are 3 pillars to our business. There is interim financial planning and analysis and financial modeling. There is data analytics and digital transformation, and then there's due diligence. So those are three different service offerings that we have, and we work across North America. So probably about 70% of our business in the US, 30% is Canadian, and our office is in Toronto. That we just we're in the pretty much just set up our Atlanta office as well. So we're now officially international.
I love it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Amazing. So you and we're actually colleagues from way back when, consulting days. I think we was around 2013. We were right around when Sekal went through the acquisition with KPMG. So it's been a while, and we have both charted our own paths. You founded Sapling not long after that, right? About 2 years after KPMG. And now it's been, what, 11 years?
10 years. Yeah. So we just sell. I mean, I did a bit of work on vacation days while I was still employed, but that was it. So it's been 10 full years of running the business after quitting my job. I got a good training at KPMG, learned a lot, and decided that there are areas in consulting where I thought we could fill certain gaps. So
I love that. Yeah. Seeing gap in the market. It's what entrepreneurship's all about, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. And you guys are already at 30 plus, I think, people, and now you're cross border. If we go back a little bit, I would love to hear about kind of your leadership journey and what shaped your leadership and kind of what brought you to knowing that you wanted to build a business.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure that like I always saw myself in some form of leadership. Like I often think that if we look at our society, the people who end up being the best leaders are not people who seek it out, but who have it sort of foisted on them and approach it not from a position of I want power, but from a position of like I guess I can. It's like being a personal chef versus being a chef at a big restaurant. You end up delegating a lot, but the impact is significantly increased. And so, like I started the business, it was just me at the very beginning, and doing financial modeling projects for a few clients. That was really what it was. I think I did want to scale it eventually. I'm not sure I wanted to scale it as quickly, but the business grew relatively quickly from year like 2015, 2016, 2017, and then 2018 was the first, like my partner ended up joining late 2016. Um, the first full-time employee was in early 2018. And like I didn't really have, to be honest with you, as much as I counsel it to people entering the market, especially looking for capital. I wasn't looking for capital. I didn't have a business plan. I just kind of took it as it went along. Um, I I think probably in most ways that was actually good because it meant that I was able to respond to market needs that came up that I hadn't originally foreseen. But I can't say that I set out to be a leader. What I can say is that in my work experience before Sapling, like there were, certain things I saw that were very good in leaders and certain things that I didn't like in leaders, and so wanted to be able to do it differently, and to strike the balance between, which is what I found in my career, either like a job where all you do is work and it's like 100-hour weeks and just hard, or it's like 40 hours a week, but it's really like 10 hours a week, and if you're not competent, you're dying inside. And there was nothing in between where it's like, okay, I want to work a good, 45, 50, 55-hour week, but leave it home as much as I can at the end of the day. And so that's what we try to provide our team. And I try to get that as much as I can, but obviously not always.
I love that. I think you spoke about the gap in the market that created your opportunity to provide services, but also a gap in the market of the culture that you want to
Yeah.
build and the, business and lifestyle. I have to ask, so your partner in the business is also your partner in life,
Yeah,
Andrea.
that's right.
How does that, a lot of people think about founding things with their partner. And obviously, there's all kinds of things you could talk about, the risk of, you both being in the same company and all kinds of things. But I'm more interested, you talked about being able to leave work at work to a degree
Mhm.
and go home. How do you guys manage that?
I
Like,
wouldn't
your
say that
advice.
the yeah, I can't say that we leave work at work completely in the sense that conversations about what happens during the day continue. I'd say leaving work at work means like the laptops are closed, and like I have a personal rule that I'm not always able to observe, but like I'll turn off, like I'll stop checking my work email at 9 p.m. So because anything that comes after that, any good news is not going to make my day, but any bad news is going to ruin my night. So I stop at 9 p.m. And I'll check it again in the morning. If it's bad news in the morning, well, I got a whole day to deal with it and settle down before going to sleep again. So I can't say that the work is completely left, but it starts to die down as the evening proceeds. So it's impossible. As a business owner, you simply can't shut down. And I mean, every time we go on vacation, there's something that comes up that has to be dealt with.
Mm.
Um, but um, yeah, it's I don't know. There's no such thing as leaving it completely behind, but you can take concerted steps. So my MS Teams that on my phone that shuts off at 9 p.m. My emails, I actually don't see new emails. There's no notification unless I open up the email app. And so I'm able to like provide like a little bit of discipline for myself to not constantly be thinking about it, although obviously it
Yeah.
still happens.
I love that though. I love that you're using technology to counteract what technology is doing to us of like
Yeah.
always being on. And I think we could have a whole podcast on that topic.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so much out there that people don't realize how much apps are built to keep us checking and the way they work, but also there are so many options if you just go into settings. Um,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think over-connectedness is not, I don't think it's conducive to necessarily being good at really all that much. And I think we take for granted that everything's like blaring all these alerts and stuff, but like it's not really that helps.
we are also just not wired for it. Like we as humans cannot evolve as fast as technology. And I know for myself, I was doing a project the last little while that people operate a little differently. So they're WhatsApping and doing things that a lot of the time would be emails, which, I don't have notifications for emails. So I check emails at certain times. I probably check it too
Yeah,
much, but it's not pinging me.
yeah,
But
exactly.
suddenly I was getting WhatsApps and calls and this, and I had an Apple Watch at the time. And I realized that my stress levels were through the roof because I was basically choosing to wear a shock collar right? Like I was
Yeah, yeah.
something that was
Oh,
like
I
smaller.
yeah, no, get up in the middle of the night, sometimes go to the bathroom, and I would look at my phone just to see what time it is. And then there'd be like a little like mail envelope at the top. It'd be like, oh, what is this? Oh, come on. This was like, like, I don't know, someone's like, client's got a complaint or someone quit or something. You're like, oh, I'm not going to get back to sleep. And you don't get back to sleep.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh,
why even bother? Check it. It will still be there in the morning. There's nothing you can do about it. If like a family member's dying or something, like obviously you want to deal with that, but with the business,
absolutely.
like
I have
whatever.
automatic do not disturb that turns onto my phone, and there's like three phone numbers that can bypass it. And I
Yeah,
actually
same here.
dug out my old clock radio, and it's in my room
Yeah.
so that I have no excuse to pick up the phone. The time is there. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that though, Rob. Thank you for that, like honesty. You can't leave everything at work. And yes, you and your wife talk about the office. Sometimes you have to handle things, but actually, I would say you have better habits than probably 80% of people I know who own businesses in terms of how you at least have like your technology set up.
Yeah, now don't get me wrong, like I have like I'm leading the sales team right now, so like each of them's asking me questions and like often I'll start doing something, then I'll get another thing, I deal with that, then I need to get another thing and I have to kind of unwind back to what I was doing originally like 15 minutes later. So like during the day I'm kind of all in, but at night it's like okay, 9 p.m. hits, that's it, it's time. Be in bed by 10:30, 11, so I shouldn't be thinking about this stuff
Yeah.
at that stage.
And I think it's really vital. I think that, I also like there are seasons, right? And I'm so excited to talk about this. You guys are in a big build season. So, of course, you're going to have to grind a little more. You're going to have to multitask a little more. And the fact that you're aware of it and still trying to have boundaries and know that, for now I can do this. And then this is how I would like it to go back to or become. Again, I think that's all about really having that clarity and knowing how you work best and how you want to work and how you want your team to function. And, it sounds like you're being very intentional about that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's skip right to this. So 2024 was a big build year for you, both metaphorically and physically. You guys built out a brand new office, I think. Is that right?
Yep, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And you brought on a new executive level role and essentially scaled out your sales department. And now you've expanded to the US this year. And I will say for those who maybe don't know your industry and markets, like the market has not been in your corner, but you've made these big moves. What prompted you? How did you know it was time to make these big moves? And what do those milestones mean to you as, a leader?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first, I think every year has been a big year in different ways. Like, uh, part of 2024 was we got a PR firm, so people think that a lot more is happening, relative to what had happened before. It's just, but we're being better about publishing it. Um, but I think as a business owner, you have to constantly be investing in the future and just having faith that things will work out. And I think your typical person who's an employee, they get a fixed salary, and they're fearful that they could lose that salary, but otherwise, like everything's kind of known, like their revenues are known, their costs are known, um, and there's not a lot of risk taking. As a business owner, it's exact opposite. Like you know a lot of your costs, but there's always surprises that come up, and they're always higher than you expect, and you don't know your revenues at all, and so. Um, if I said this to my team yesterday, if it was easy, then everyone would do it, but it's not. You have to be constantly investing and building it and making sure. And if a very simple example of that, you go to a Subway, they have all these freshly cut up food or veggies like lettuce and tomatoes and stuff and onions, and they have no idea how many people are coming through the door. It seems like the business will just be there and they'll make money, and you don't really think about it. You kind of take it for granted, but they have no idea who's going to be walking through that door. There's no plan on what they're going to do that's in any sense tactical of bringing people in the door. Maybe they've done big marketing and ad campaigns, but like it's on faith that they open the doors, they staff it, they have those veggies cut up and bake a certain amount of bread, and they just hope. And so I think it's the same thing with our business as well. It takes time to train solid financial consulting professionals. We make our offers in September, often for a period from May to September of the next year. Um, you don't really know what's coming down the pipes, and so I think that that uncertainty is inherent to our existence, and we just kind of on faith have to invest and build, and it's always worked well for us. Like it's always maybe not immediately, but we've never lacked for work. We lacked for work that would get me to the slam dunk number on the bottom line that I'd want. Yes. Have we lacked for work in the sense of like, oh, we don't have enough to pay people? No, that's never happened before. Consulting's a great business in the sense that it's a bad business in the sense that the salaries are high and they're paid no matter what. It's a good business in the sense that um, it doesn't take much to it doesn't take people billing a lot of hours before they're profitable.
Right.
Um, and so it's we can kind of have the confidence that like okay we are increasing our payroll, but it won't take a huge number before we're making money on it. And so like we never are we've been growing pretty quickly, but our payroll's never as high as the revenues the previous year. So there's always this comfort involved with it, and but we think the opportunity is absolutely huge. I mean, the market is big. There's a lot of dissatisfaction with professional service providers who are too expensive and not doing good enough work. We're selling to the U.S. market. We have a huge currency arbitrage, and depending on how you slice it, we're 50 to 70% cheaper in terms of our cost for the same unit of labor. Um, there's just a lot of advantages and a lot of reasons that this industry could explode. Has exploded before, and even when it so exploded in 2021, we did well that year. Then the market kind of turned down, and M&A volumes have been falling since 2021. We grew every single year in there. We'll still grow this year probably, but not maybe not at the. We want to double this year, so we'll see. I think that's less likely, but certainly we can hit that double even with our current team, we hit that double number in terms of pacing for the rest of the year if the market's turn. But yeah, there's some confidence that like our costs are manageable and a lot of upside. Like it's not all margin because bonuses go up and other costs go up, but like if you're holding onto that team and then all of a sudden revenue spike, like it's great. It's a good business. So we're there for that, and we'll keep our capacity. The factory's still here. The demand is delayed, but it
Right.
can't be delayed forever. So
I love what you said though, the reward isn't immediate. And there is a huge value to being prepared when the opportunity is coming in, when the demand is coming in to have a, reliable, well-trained, well-oiled machine, right? A team that
yeah,
can deliver, right? And so I often talk about, there's foundation and scaling and foundation building and scaling. And, if you scale so fast that you can't deliver, that's really bad. If you invest forever and never scale and sell, that's also bad because you run out of money.
yeah,
I love what you said about that. And I'm curious, I think that is one of the key challenges to entrepreneurship, right? Like people are selling it as this like amazing opportunity and not often talking about some of those realities. And I think it takes a certain personality. I'm curious, how do you know? I think there's a difference, and I would love your perspective. The company being ready to grow versus you being ready to grow. What do you how do you I think how you look at the company is more logical. And so, I'd
mhm.
love to hear your thoughts on that. But also, what do you find yourself needing to tap into for these big changes, as a leader to be betting on
Yeah,
that future?
yeah. I mean, I think my growth has been proportional to the company's growth. That probably means at certain times my readiness has slowed down the company's ability to scale. Um, I mean, yeah, there are the two sides of it. Like I think, like for consulting, like it just raw billing capacity. Like each of our levels is going to have a certain amount based on the bill rates they could hypothetically bill out of the year, and realistically what they'd be able to bill out in a year. So it's a, and then we have a sales team too, so they've got quotas. So that's all math. I mean, it's more than math, but it is math. Like, hey, we can build this much. Hey, we can sell this much. So you build out the capacity. But there are other things obviously associated with the capacity that are a little bit less tangible, like the amount of admin overhead that we have. Our software is that scalable? Like our management bandwidth, and that's not just like management billable bandwidth, but it's also like the bandwidth to deal with, I don't know, several projects going sideways at once, or a couple of people leaving at once or whatever it is. So there's a bunch of other things associated with that, but it was more straightforward in a way. It's also less straightforward than personal growth because it's like, okay, well, we have to be able to train people. There's systems and protocols. There's also like an intangible, like when they actually internalize this, is it actually working well? Handbook might be great, the training program might be great, but doesn't necessarily mean you have like qualified people. So, but
Mm.
I mean, those are some of the things we think about that on that side. In terms of like leadership ability, um, I mean, I started a business when I was 29, like full time, and like I think I haven't done a lot of training. I did join CEO Global, which is a CEO peer group in January. That's been fantastic. I don't know that I've learned a ton that I didn't know before, but it kind of gives you A, it gives you permission to do the things that you thought you were supposed to do, and B, it also lets you see other people's problems and kind of puts those in perspective. And they're still up and fighting despite what they went through, so you're kind of up and fighting as well. We did do an advisory board in 2019 after we had a few you know situations that didn't work out quite as well, so that was helpful too. Again, it like do we learn some stuff? Yes, we learned some things, but the biggest value is be able to talk about those things in a structured way, come up with an approach, and move on. But I think the leadership has mostly just come from trying everything, being burned a few times, and then learning next time. So, like classic example, something goes wrong with the employment relationship or client relationship, and then you change the process. So, your hiring process, now you're looking for this thing, the client project, you're asking these questions before you take on the engagement, and then you also update your paperwork so you can deal with it because this could go sideways. So I want to be able to deal with it, a way that brings it to a soft landing. So I don't know. It's like little failures that are not fatal that allow you to learn. I think that's been the most important thing for leadership. It's not courses. It's not advisory boards or leadership or like peer groups. Those are good, but I think it's just being able to fail in a structured, safe way. Safe-ish, like it can be costly, but the safe-ish way that doesn't kind of put a nail on the coffin in the business like that. I think that's been the most important thing, and then being open to it and kind of accepting that like guidance from the world at large. It just kind of happens to you. Like there is a lesson there. So
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's always some learning the hard way, in business and entrepreneurship in particular. You but fall down 9 times, get up 10. It's like every time you integrate the lesson and you have one more item on the risk checklist or the mitigation checklist that you're prepared for the
yeah,
next time, and then there's a different thing that comes up and you go through that.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm curious, I know you're expanding the sales team, and the role that they play is really more than just selling, right? Would you consider sales being really integral to customer success? Do they play into even like service development and delivery? What I think sales is it's an area I always find really interesting, particularly in professional services.
yeah. I mean, I think in Canada, professional services sales is at a very like it's very underdeveloped. I think sales generally in Canada is not developed to the extent that it should be. We're not freewheeling capitalists to the same extent Americans are. I think there's certain fields where we've done better with that, obviously with like tech companies, but professional services sales, it's not a job you're going to find a whole lot of. We don't see a lot of it with our competitors. I think with the bigger firms, like they already have a brand, so they're more geared towards like an account engagement or account management approach, which I think is honestly an easier form of sales. But pure sales hunters going out there bringing new leads, I think tech does that quite well. And sometimes they over engineer it and they have like all these different roles and like different people touch different stages of it, which I think is uh, I think humans don't really like. They like to see the thing go through from start to finish. But in the US, it's pretty well thought out. A lot of our competitors down there have full-time salespeople going to the same conferences we are, and really just focusing on building those relationships. And so I mean, it's like I've taken over the sales function and been, I think I have a team of 5 full-time team members right now, and then 3 part-time team members under me. And like it's like we're still figuring out what works well, but I think there's a few categorical imperatives if you want to talk about that. Like it's a relationship business based around like trust, but also knowledge. And so there has to be a big role for partner level and manager level people to have those relationships. You take them out of it if it's just a pure salesperson. Um, People are going to be turned off a little bit. They don't really want to just talk to a salesperson. They will have good relationships with salespeople, but they want that, like, the way you distinguish yourself is that relationship, and it does have to be with a consulting professional who can provide insights into their problems, insights into the markets and what their competitors are doing. So that's one imperative. Um, and then I think another imperative is just going out there and getting the word out. There's lots of dissatisfaction with professional services. The people business, every professional service firm like will make mistakes from time to time. Some of them will correct it, some of them won't. And I'd say most of the firms purchasing it in our space, private equity, like they'll have a few vendors, and oh, that firm, like, put them in the penalty box or one someone else in. Um, and so, but getting the word out there, there's enough there's a big market, and so there's always new opportunities. And so making sure that you have the consulting team, if they're going to be worth anything to the prospects and to talking, they have to be doing work, delivering. You don't want them to be spending too much of their time selling. And so you
Mhm.
need someone, if you're going to grow at, like, the rates we're targeting, like, you need someone who's fully dedicated to bringing those leads, those prospects in the door to the point where they're ready to talk. And
Mhm.
so constantly targeting, and how do we target conferences, networking events, cold. We've had a lot of success with going after um, people like cold with well-targeted messaging. You have to keep following up. You have to get in front of them. You're there to break things, like, you're not there to be just polite. In the sense that, like, you cold call someone, it's an unwanted intrusion. It can also be an unwanted intrusion that changes their life and makes it so much easier because they've now found a consulting partner who's going to do great work for them. So, um, yeah, like, you need both. You need the strong involvement from the consulting team, and then you need that pure salesperson who just loves forming new relationships.
I love how you broke that down. I'm curious if I was just to wind it back a little bit. So often, when you're building something up, and you did this to a degree, right? You were doing something and you got to the point where you were doing enough of it well enough that you needed more people to do it, right? And I think sales is often very, very founder led because you know the business inside out, right? You wore all the hats,
Mhm.
so you figured it all out. And
Yeah,
to your point, when we're talking professional services, people, it's trust based, it's being able to say something, insightful enough, which usually comes from knowing the work that
yeah,
gets done, to trigger someone to feel like, oh, you get me. Oh, I like that
yeah,
idea. Could you deliver it? Whatever that might
yeah.
be. And so, what is, the biggest step or one of the two of the most important things as you start to delegate that, whether it be to other delivery team members, consulting team members, or to more dedicated sales team members? What were some of the most biggest challenges you had there, or what did you find was the most successful way of doing it?
Well, I think training is the most important thing. Like, your salespeople are going to be like, we can't source salespeople from our competitors because, like, even if we wanted to get them, like, they don't really exist. Those sales hunters from our competitors. So it's taking what's good about, like, tech sales and related areas where there is a strong sales element, and teaching those people, like, okay, what's different? Well, there's a bunch of things from a comp perspective. We sell a small engagement in the private equity firm. We do well. It explodes. It's not like selling a software license where it's like, okay, I got my total contract value signed today, and I'll just get a little trailer afterwards. Which is anti-climactic for us. It's like, oh, that's going to grow, and you're going to make more money with it. So there's that element to it, but it's also like, this is a relationship. It's not like you're just going to, find the same person to try and get them to switch to a software product. Like, you're gonna talk to people. You're gonna form a good relationship. First time you're gonna talk about work. You see them again. You take them to, I don't know, a tennis match or hockey, whatever it is,
Mm.
and you're just gonna, build trust. Maybe you'll talk a little bit about work. Maybe a little bit of it you won't be, and then you're going to be there when there's a need that arises that pops up, and deal they're trying to do, or a CFO quit at their company and they need help, or whatever it is. So it's a relationship based selling, and it's not tangible. It's not like, oh, like here's like 30 demo videos that we're going to put in front of them. You're kind of making it up as you go along. Do we have experience? Yes, but how that experience is manifested the work product and the results, and is so different from situation to situation. So it's very different from software sales. So that's one part of it, and then the other side is a consulting team. Um, I'm very sales driven. I like doing the work. I don't do the work anymore, but like I'm, obsessed with just trying to grow relationships and pick up new relationships. But your average, but I didn't start out that way. I started out just wanting to build a really nice financial model with 10,000 rows of Excel. Like I'd rather just be, working at home in my, bedroom or whatever at the time, and just building a great model and not talking to people. And it really took a lot to change that and get me excited about sales. Now I love it. Now I that's a mean, besides like, the general strategy and working with my management team and stuff like that. Like most of my time is sales, whether it's the player aspect, leading my own campaigns, taking tons of meetings, or coaching and equipping the team to do that work themselves. And so for consulting team members, especially our managers, and to a lesser extent our consultant level team members, it's just getting them excited about sales, coaching them around that, showing them how easy it is to often like upsell a happy client. So they're wired to make the client happy. They're not wired to ask for more work or to look for more work, or to go for close or whatever that is. So educating them on that aspect of consulting. And I think at the Big Four, they don't educate you on that until you're a junior partner, and you're like, what the heck? I don't know what I'm doing. We've got them doing this like from day one. We've had analysts doing proposals, sitting on calls with me to try and scope out a need. Like sales is
Right.
big into our culture, and we love it. And
Yeah.
and after we're gonna go into the bullpen and gong the sale we just made. So building that sales culture and getting everyone excited about it.
I love that. I think that's a really, really good point, and you were right. I think, whether you're talking about coming up through consulting or a lot of other places, the concept of like upsell and lifetime value is just not really common colloquial things that we talk about. And I think back to probably a lot of my success, I got exposed to that really early because I was often like at clients without partner overview. We'll talk about why. That was just a weird thing. I was there sometimes with like other consulting companies, and I built really strong relationships through the nature of the projects. They were really intense. They had a lot of really high level executive involvement. And guess what? The easiest time to sell someone is when they trust you and you're, finishing up delivering something amazing for them, and they're telling you about this problem they're facing, and you're like asking questions, and then you're like, "Can I use your whiteboard for a second? Like, what about this and this? I think it'd be really interesting if you thought about," and they're like, "Yeah, and then suddenly you have another engagement, you know?
Yeah,
And like I kind of learned that out of like need for survival. So just kind of like
yeah,
left. But that was very uncommon at, a senior consultant manager level. Now it contributed to me going up beyond that really quickly. But I think about, there was no formal training, even up into director. There was nobody showing me how to do that or teaching. I got to shadow some partners in consulting, and I watched them tell stories and I watched them build businesses. And I really, got to determine who I thought was a great example and maybe wanted to emulate consciously or unconsciously. But I think that's a really, really good point. And, for entrepreneurs who didn't even have that opportunity of coming up in consulting, where we are fairly financially literate and we learn how to structure projects and we learn how to at least engage with clients, I think that is a huge opportunity to understand and practice the idea of like get your foot in the door, build a relationship, deliver something solid, even if it's small. And then once you're in there, you're going to have access to all kinds of information. And then enough to see the upsell and build. And to your
yeah,
point, build more relationships as well, right? Like you
yeah.
always say you want to spread out in bigger organizations. You don't want to only be tied to one person in that
And,
company.
and I think for your average consulting team member, like I don't think this is the case for sales. If it is the case for salespeople, maybe they should look in another field. But for consulting team members, like they're kind of like, oh, I don't want to bother the person. Like they're doing me a favor by taking the sales call, and it took me a long time, but eventually you reached a point, and people told me again and again, you're delivering value. You're providing something of value to them. They're interested in learning more because it will make their life easier. And eventually get to the point where like, yeah, you're right. Like I'm doing something that they will find valuable. Like often with less so with my team members, with me, they often get lunch out of it too, so they like that as well. But like, um, you know, you're providing something that will be of value to them. And so when you pick up the phone and you do a cold call, and you know you're gonna get, the phone slammed down on you sometimes like that. That needs to be your kind of guiding star. Like I
Mm.
have something valuable, they need it, and I'm going to work hard to convince them that that's the case.
That is such a good point. And that's absolutely, even for me, I kind of joke about it like, oh, I can sell projects, teams. I sold our startup. Like selling myself, I went all the way back down to the bottom of that ladder and was just like, until I realized every time I got on a call with somebody, even if it wasn't a sales call, sometimes I'm like on a just intro to somebody or a collaboration, and something will come up and I'll say, oh, can I offer a perspective? And they're like, of course. And then I'm like, I would consider this, and this. And they're like, oh. And then I give them a structure. And then I realize I'm like, people would have paid thousands of dollars for that thing that I just was like, oh, let me help you out. And so anyone who gets on a sales call, whether we work together or not, they always come away with a perspective. And if they're an action taker, probably something that's going to make them a lot of money or make their life a lot easier. But that,
Yeah,
yeah, I think I still struggle with that. But I love that you called that out because I think as an entrepreneur, I say I still struggle with it, but like you have to get over it, and
yeah,
I still do the thing. I just battle with the internal.
yeah. Like I mean, I've been listening a lot to like Mike Weinberg. He's like a sales expert, and he talks about um like really wearing sales as a profession that's helping people. Like, oh, doctors help people, but we do help people. Like we're the ones who are communicating the value of a new solution to people that can make their lives easier. So I like it. I mean, I'm a competitive person. I was a competitive squash player growing up. Like that's real. The chase is there, but like so is the desire to create value. And you could have the best consulting team in the world, but if there's no one to sell it, like that value is not being realized by anybody. And then they're all unemployed eventually. So
Yeah,
it's it
yeah.
is a noble profession if done properly and without exaggeration. It can be a noble profession.
Yeah, I think, Hollywood has given sales like a bad rap, but it can be very ethical and it's absolutely a required component, right? You really can't have a
Yeah,
company without sales. You
yeah,
spoke about, who you are listening to right now and something you've taken away from that around
mm,
sales. But I'm wondering, I often talk about, leaders are built, not born. I think
mm,
generally,
agreed.
great leaders,
Yeah,
you are defining and developing, frankly, intentionally or not, but
mm,
ideally intentionally, the type of leader that you become. And often that's via identifying and emulating, leaders that you admire. And I'm curious, are there people throughout your career that have played roles in for you as people that you kind of look up to and you consciously think about how would they handle this? And has that changed over time?
yeah. I mean, I think in terms of leaders, like I there is an element still of like that bifurcation. So I've had leaders that I really liked that were very decent people, but they weren't really super intense. Um, and then I've had people who've been super intense who are like I just other than their intensity, like there wasn't much to commend them, and they did not build the trust of people to go out of their way. And so I've kind of married together what the best of what I've seen out there, um, and like try to live that. Like I don't know. I think I as a oriented person, like even the greatest leaders have like pretty significant flaws. I mean, if you look at like the political leadership, and I think we're in a period where there's a low caliber of political leaders like mostly across the board with a few exceptions. But if you look back at like leaders that were more respected, in Canada, for instance, you have I don't know, Chrétien, you had Mulrooney, in the US you had Clinton, you had Bush, wherever you stand on the political spectrum. I mean, I think these people were like, you know, they were just stronger leaders than generally what we're seeing today. But did they have warts, flaws? Clinton had an affair. I think it was Mulrooney took a suitcase full of cash. So I am experienced with those things. So like, I don't think I would ever elevate someone to the point where I'm like, okay, this is someone like I just have to be exactly like, because you dig a little bit deeper and it's like, oh, they're human and they had some stuff that cannot be anything but condemned. And like when my life is over, I hope that's not the case, but like the human failings are there too. But certainly they're the best of what I've seen in bosses I've had. I've tried to take those and make sure those are baked in. But layering up that intensity level too.
Yeah.
I
I
think
love that you said
that's
that.
been important to me.
Though
Yeah,
also like integrity is really important, right? Like not perfect, but in integrity.
yeah,
That's important. But also you can like build, it's almost like you can what's the word I'm looking for? Like you can like build a leader, like build a bear. You're like, I want this feature,
yeah,
that feature, and that feature. And like how do I plug those together into my own personal leadership style and set of values? I think that that's
yeah.
really, really powerful.
Like I think the bosses that I liked, I took that from them, and then I upped the intensity level. I'm probably not as nice a person as they are. I'm probably not quite as understanding, but I still think, if my staff gave their honest opinion, like he's a real he's a driving personality, pushing things along. It's never that comfortable, but I do know he cares about me. Like that's what I would want
Yeah.
to
I think
hear
that's
ideally.
I think that's key though, right? Like because you want to attract people that are high performers who want to
Yeah,
push, right? And a leader is someone who like is charismatic and inspiring while being, safe enough to approach, right? Like that's
yeah.
really what great leadership is. Like if you're terrifying, that's not probably going to build the best team because everyone's going to
No,
like
it's not.
things from you. But if you are just like laissez-faire and suit, everybody loves you, but they're not particularly inspired to impress you, or you're not holding exacting standards for yourself and others, like that's not growth. That's not a growth or environment.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we have our management meetings every Monday, and we had a hard decision that we had to make, and I said here's one way we could approach it, and like this would be obviously like a better outcome, but it was harsh, and I saw my managers like kind of make a face of like, oh, that like I've judged you negatively here. And I talked to my the leader of my CEO peer group about that, and he said, you know what, that's fine. They're not the ones who have to make the hard decisions. It's true.
I love that. I want to highlight that if anyone is listening, I actually made a note to do a solo podcast about difficult decisions because the role of a leader is to take the final decisions, take the decisions that no one else has to or can or wants to take. And it is hard. It is
Yeah,
hard, but it is almost always, and I try not to get on my soapbox here because I am going to actually do an episode, but it is almost always in the best interest of everybody in the long run, right? But in the short
yeah,
term, it doesn't always feel that way for everybody. And you have to, as a leader, assess your options and take the right decision. And you ride the discomfort out
yeah,
because long term, it's in the best interest, but is
yeah.
not.
And so yeah, and so I mean, I mean, think my as the team's grown, it's become more of a leadership role with a political element to it versus kind of being the first among equals, like, oh, I'm a financial modeler and I'm leading financial modelers. So I'm more cognizant of those things. And I mean, I've in the last probably year or two, I've kind of settled on like, I want to be a winning team. Like we don't want to be the Leafs. We don't want to be the team. Literally, with the longest, I don't even watch hockey, but for the longest period of not winning the Stanley Cup. We want to be like the Florida Panthers. And boy, was it,
I
again, I
was
didn't
gonna say the
watch it, but
timing
like
of
the
this
score,
conversation.
yeah, so decisive.
Yeah.
And they're all there and they're all hungry and they go out there and they're taking care of business. And so that's, if you're building a high performing culture, you have to view it in those terms. And you talk to your managers like, okay, this person's not doing well, we might not be able to continue working together. Everyone's like, oh, come on, like, is there something we can do? But when you say, well, we're building a winning team, and you start to ask them, and it's like, well, they dropped the ball on this, and we lost this client because of this or whatever it is, you
Mm,
start to see that like you need to maintain that
yeah.
culture of excellence there. And if you don't lose that culture of excellence, okay, fine. At the beginning, oh, me, I'm the business owner, I'm not making as much money, but eventually you start to see the cracks, and it affects everybody. Oh, this person left because it's not a high performing culture. Oh, we lost this client. Now, not that this happened, thank God, but like, oh, we're not even in a position to pay everyone's salary anymore,
Yeah.
because we held on to the wrong people and they kept screwing up.
Yeah. And I want to highlight, you just said, this person left because of the high performing. Imagine losing your high performers because you wouldn't get rid of a low performer.
I think that's most organizations.
When you say it that way, it seems so fucking obvious. And yet it happens, to your point, all the time, right? It
Yeah,
happens all the time. People hesitate, they hold off, sunk costs, right? They're like, oh, we'll just, no.
yeah. Well, when we were talking about this relatively recently about, like having to deal with a situation where we weren't performing at our best consistently. And one of my managers said, I can see how, because he was the one who's going to have the hard conversations. He said, I can see how, that discomfort around these hard conversations and trying to really just avoiding them consistently. That's you know, the on the road to just becoming a low performing.
Yeah. And it's the edge of being an emerging leader as well, right? Like
That's right. That's right.
you would never be able to put him into a, next level role if he can't have those conversations.
Exactly. And so, I mean, your job as a leader is to consistently have hard conversations. Most of the hard conversations are not like, okay, we're parting ways. Most of them are, here's the standard, you fell short. Let's help you to get to the point where you're not falling short, where you're exceeding.
Absolutely. And your reticence to have those hard, but I'm going to say like lowercase h hard conversations are what will lead you to have uppercase h hard
Yeah.
conversations more often, right?
Yeah.
Like it just spirals and kind of snowballs. So have the smaller ones, have regular feedback. Anyways, we could do a whole episode on culture and that, and I would love to. But I want to be mindful of time and touch on something that is really fundamental to what I do and what the conversations I'm having a lot, because entrepreneurship, is being sold as this panacea of freedom. Freedom is a top value for me. Love it. But it's just a word until you put a meaning behind it, right? And building a business is not easy. It is not instant, like a true business, like what you have,
No,
right?
not at all.
If
It's
you want to be
10
a
years and counting.
freelancer, that's different. But 10 years, there have been periods of grind. There have been periods where I'm sure you have made trade-offs and sacrifices that you don't plan to make forever. What I do think entrepreneurship, though, is an opportunity to define success on your terms, right? And not
That's
by
right.
whatever anyone else says. And so, what does it mean for you? What is success on your terms for yourself, for Sapling Financial, your family?
Yeah. I think success for me means being able to do what is right. I remember even like, for the most part had good jobs, but even within those, there were times where, you know, we would be directed to compromise on something that wasn't quite right. Um, we're not in a position where we have to do that. If it's, client asking us to do something we don't feel right, we've returned the money to clients and said, look, we're not a fit. Um, if it's a team member who is not reflecting our values properly, we don't have to work with anyone we don't want to. And I think that, to me, that's what freedom is. There've been good years, there've been bad years, there've been years, like financially, I'd say overall it's worth it. I don't know if it's I think in some ways it might be more worth it to be an employee in a lot of respects. Maybe not with taxes, but like just from a sheer dollar perspective, there's an exit, but then you kind of used up and tired by to some extent for most business owners, I think. But I mean that's exaggerating a little bit, but um, but that destination thing, like I'm not a big believer in retirement and riding into the sunset and stuff like that. Like I think that um, I don't see myself ever quitting work. And so it's about the journey, and that journey has to be on your terms. And so it has to be like I'm doing impactful work. I'm mentoring leaders, future leaders. I'm helping people to fulfill their full potential. And I'm not making compromises, doing things that I don't believe in, working with people I don't believe in, whether on the client side, employee side, or vendor side. I think that's freedom, and to be honest, there are not many people who have that. Politicians, they're powerful people. Even the Prime Minister of Canada, President of the U.S., they don't have unlimited power to choose who they work with. Um, Anybody who's a highfalutin executive making lots of money, same thing. They have even less power. I can't think of many people who have the power I do to unilaterally end a relationship, and I've you know done that at certain points in my career, and that was for the better. And so I think that's what freedom is. I wouldn't want to make 50 grand a year um, in the business, but the number I make I'm happy with, and if it rose, great, but it doesn't have to rise. That's not really what's motivating me.
Right. I love that. I want to dig really quickly into what you guys do and the insights that are there for entrepreneurs and executives, because you really have a level of financial literacy that is above and beyond, even average business owners, let alone, people who might be considering foraying into entrepreneurship. You do due diligence, which is, very,
Yeah.
very detailed analysis. You are doing financial modeling, data analytics. So you're on the cutting edge of tech. What do you think is most vital for entrepreneurs and executives to understand regarding finances in order to responsibly scale a business?
Well, I think cash flow is king. So there's two elements to it. Are you profitable? That's step one. And then are you cash flow positive? And they actually mean very different things. Like we've been through many periods where and like recently even our revenues dropped, probably our profitability dropped a little bit, but actually our cash flow is better. But then we've had periods where like, okay, the revenue, the profitability is going up, and but like you don't have any money, and you're like, where am I making payroll from? So I think you have to look at both of those. Like everything you do, you have to be making money. Like you can't be doing stuff where you're bidding on projects and you're not going to make money. That is like a shortcut to the end of the business. But you do also have to be aware that like even if you're making money, that doesn't mean you have the money to make payroll with. And I mean we're pretty good like in the sense that like our clients, we put them on 15 really 15 days terms, and they pay within probably within 30 days of that. So 45 days realistically. But we can control that. We can't control the fact that like we have high costs obviously with salaries and everything, but um there are firms out there where you score the sweetheart deal. Oh, I've just sold like a huge amount to Walmart. They're gonna order millions and millions and millions of dollars from me. It's like that's fantastic. You're doing it profitably, even better. But actually, if you don't deal with this cash flow situation by getting a huge bank loan to cover it, you're gonna go under. Like so I think you have to recognize that those cash flow and profitability are things you need to look at and think about. And I think most people, well, not everyone, there's a lot of companies out there that are just unprofitable for ages, but and because they have venture money for the most part, although that's drying up a little bit. But the profitability fine, but think through that cash flow implication. Yes, you're going to make money, but you're going to be paid last, and you're going to have all these huge costs. And the last thing you want to do is be profitable, have a huge deal lined up, and then like you're this vendor you're dependent on and saying, we're stopping shipments, or your team's quitting because they're not being paid. So I think that's what I think is critical for entrepreneurs to know.
Amazing. Well, Rob, there's so many more questions I would love to ask you, but I know that you want to get out and ring the gong and the bullpen and celebrate with your team, which is your culture. So I love that. We have a couple rapid fire questions we like to close out with. It
Yep.
can be a one-word answer, you can pass, and then we'll just make sure that everyone knows where to find you and we'll let you go celebrate with your teams. You ready?
Yep.
Cool.
Definitely.
What is one decision that changed everything for you as a leader?
The decision to no longer be basically a solopreneur and have staff, that changed everything for sure.
Amazing. What does strategy feel like when you're doing it well?
It means being able to make moves that aren't going to be rewarded immediately by the market.
Hmm. Is there a book, podcast, or person that really cracked something open for you?
Well, I like Mike Weinberg's podcast on sales. I think that's really good. And then there's also a leadership one that I listen to, No Bullshit Leadership. That's fantastic. Uh, Lots and lots of really good tidbits that I get from there, and constantly going through my head as I'm thinking about managing both my managers and the team generally, as well as the sales team specifically.
What's something you've said never again to in your business?
Never again do we start work with a client without the consulting agreement signed.
Good paperwork makes good partnership. If you had a free weekend and zero obligations, how would you spend it?
Got a lot of books I want to read. I do keep away at them. If just have the time to read those, and maybe, I don't know, be able to spend a good amount of time in different coffee shops trying some good coffee. Toronto's
Mm,
coffee scene's really developing, I think.
You're speaking my language. I cannot wait. I'm going to do this summer, drinking all the coffee. Rob, thank you so much. We've come in under the buzzer. Really quickly, if people are curious about kind of who you work for, how you can help them, and how they can find you, and we'll make sure we put it in the show notes with your links. Just give us that last wrap up.
Yeah. I mean, like, you can send me an email, rob@saplingfinancial.com. You can go to our website, www.saplingfinancial.com. The phone number there is still my personal number. We'll see how long that lasts. But so far so good. So 416-625-2633. Yeah.
Amazing. So yeah, if your organization is looking at deals or, how to enhance profitability and decision making with enhanced financials, absolutely reach out to Rob. I cannot thank you enough for the time you gave us today. Have the best afternoon, and I can't wait to have you back soon.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak today.
That's a wrap for this episode of Builders, where we get real about what it actually takes to grow companies that perform without grinding you into the ground. If today's convo sparks something for you, here's what to do next. Follow the show, drop a 5-star review, and share it with someone else who's building big. Don't let it be lonely at the top. If you're ready for more clarity, more leadership freedom, and less of a duct tape and go growth vibe, let's connect. Book your free business breakdown call using the link in the show notes. In 30 minutes, I'll help you pinpoint where blockers in your time, team, or strategy are silently stalling your growth. Walk away with a personalized fix-it list that gives you the clarity you've been craving on what to shift now to regain traction and build momentum. For more tools, insights, and my no-fluff takes on leadership and scaling strategically, join the Builders Club, also linked in the show notes. You can also head over to leaderswhobuild.com, where you'll find all the links to peep my creds, see client wins, or just confirm that yes, I went to the gym today. Until next time, keep leading boldly, building smart, and living success on your terms.